Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again, alpha time. We love alpha. We like talking to people that know way more than us. That's why we have crypto gaming founders. For the first time on the channel, this is a debut. We have the co-founder of Merit Circle here. Might have a special guest over at Megaweapon if his power comes back on. I'm looking at you. But here we go, Marco from Merit Circle. I'm excited. I've got the little 8-bit music going on. I am pumped to talk because I don't even want to say the word pump, because at this point people are like, don't say the word earn, don't say the word pump, don't say this and that. I'm like, I can't help myself. There's nothing I can do about it, Marco. Like, what's going on at Merit Circle right now? Are you excited? Is this the time to be up in antsy? Is this going to last more than a month? What's going on?
I mean, we'll find out. I think, this has been incredible couple of months, just super busy, super thrilled to be here and to talk more gaming, theme, Merit Circle. Yeah, I would say let's just dive right into it.
Yeah, Merit Circle, my friend. All right, let's dive into it. So the big reason I even learned about Merit Circle initially, I'll be honest here, was because of Avalanche. You started doing something with AVAX, and apparently AVAX is killing it. Number 9 crypto on the planet. Came out of nowhere once again. Last bull market did pretty damn well. What made you take the plunge into Avalanche specifically? Because I talked to the Gaming on Avalanche guys, Ed Chang. He was like, oh, we just spammed out a bunch of games. We were really excited about the possibility of a bunch of people building on our chain. We just need people on the chain. What's your perspective as someone that's in a DAO and is making something that fills in a niche? Why Avalanche? Why not just go to Ethereum or Ronin Network?
Yeah, good question. I mean, you've spoken to the guys themselves. I think if you have spoken to them, you'll learn that there's amazing energy at the AVAX team. I mean, they're great guys to work with, and it's been an absolute pleasure so far. And I think what stood out to us was pretty simple. I mean, they had this whole subnet thing working where they were the first to actually pull it off in this way, where we saw DeFi kingdoms use this and do this. And we were like, you know what? This actually makes a lot of sense. And we had in mind for a while now, based on all the feedback that we've gotten throughout the past 2-3 years from game studios, we had in mind, let's build an ecosystem that is interesting for game studios, game developers, and for gamers. And it just makes sense and takes those blockchain elements into the games, but in a way that feels more natural and more back to the gaming roots. And so Avalanche, the subnet, I mean, it was a perfect fit to be able to start our, I would say, ecosystem adventure there. Because what's really cool about the subnet thing that they build is basically, I mean, it's a luxury problem to have that if a game becomes big enough that they have such a large user base that they want to spin up their own subnet. I think what's really cool there is that they natively communicate with each other. And so for us, it was like, okay, we get different games combined in one ecosystem on one chain that is 100% dedicated to gaming. And then by the time that they become too big for our chain, that you have to noisy neighbor issue, maybe it makes sense they spin up their own chain, but without having to do like all the bridging and all the new tooling set up on that chain. It's all just natively communicates with each other. And I think that's really cool about Avalanche, besides just the people to work with.
Yeah, I used to cover a lot back in the day, Cosmos SDK plays, and there was this whole thing with inter-blockchain communication protocols.
Yeah.
They made it way too complicated, IBC. Nobody cares about the term. Just let blockchain talk to other blockchain natively. Has Avalanche simplified this even more than IBC? Because I'm sure you've explored what IBC is, right?
Yeah, we have. And I'll be honest with you, and I like to say this on the streams too, I'm definitely not the most technical person at Merit Circle. I mean, we have way better experts than that. What I will say is that, I mean, we can talk about it perhaps a little bit later as well. It's when we look at, what are game studios really looking for when they want to pick a chain? For us, it was keep it simple, keep it stupid, so that they understand how it works and how it can be integrated in their game. And I mean, Avalanche as a whole already was kind of booming and it has a good community. It has an interesting crowd, and like I said, good folks to work with. So I'm not sure in detail what actually was the difference between, Cosmos side or the Avalanche side that made us pick Avalanche. I just felt like, on our
Avalanche
side,
is cooler.
it was cooler. Yeah,
and it has gaming projects on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I mean, the example that I gave is DeFi Kingdoms. I mean, DeFi Kingdoms had a subnet spun up. They did obviously very well with that. And it showed us that, okay, even when this grows, because they had some success there, even when it grows to a lot of users, that it works and how it works in practice. And I think with a lot of the other ecosystems that were out there, they were simply not there yet. And maybe, we're now seeing more of those opportunities across different chains where they might start offering this. But like I said, this was just the perfect playground for us to start this ecosystem adventure.
Just made sense for you. Got the right partners, got the right
Yeah.
subnet tech. It's time to build. And
Sometimes
talking
just about that.
building, it's just about that. People overcomplicate things all the time. I have actually had a summoning ritual on this channel. It's actually the first time I'm going to be doing this, but there is a gentleman, Ludacris Gibbs. He is a founder, creative director over at Megaweapon. I'm going to do this. It's going to be pretty insane. I've been looking forward to this day. This is a guy that is building a dope project. Megaweapon, I played way too much. I actually went ahead and hopped onto one of their tournaments without signing up, so unfortunately I didn't get a degenerator. But I kicked everybody's asses. Every content creator that comes up to me, I will make sure that I win. You guys think I just cover crypto gaming tokens? You are really wrong. So what's good, Ludacris Gibbs? We got him on the show. His power's back on. We're all hyped to see you. What's good?
Oh man, it has been just a struggle to get here this morning. I'm so sorry to show up late. Very unlike me. So of course I'm like, yeah, in a great state to be talking calmly about things. But yeah, where can I start?
Everybody is looking at you right now, and everybody they're looking for the answer.
Oh man,
why Avalanche? I just asked Marco why he decided to build on Avalanche. We talked about Cosmos SDK. We talked about how friendly the team was. Why'd you end up building on Avalanche? Because clearly it was a good decision. Let's be honest. Like, hey, sometimes you throw darts, one hits. Is that the case, or was it a little bit more in depth?
Yeah, I'd say so far it's working great. Has been a great choice up to now, at the very least. Sorry, now I'm distracted by how blurry my camera's gotten. We were talking to a lot of different options as far as chains that were going to support the volume of transaction and the cost of transaction that we saw as a top priority for moving chains. Obviously, launching on L1 is not a while it might be a good strategy for certain aspects of the project, marketing, development, etc. Potentially, when we finally sort of came to terms with what it was going to take to enable I'd say a Web3 coherent solution, to like handling transactions and handling risk play and things like that, i.e. Non-custodial solution, which we see as kind of very non-Web3, if you can, decentralize.
That's and Web3, got it.
Yeah. So we were looking at a lot of different options, and Avalanche and Merit Circle / Beam in particular were actually one of, if not the only interview that we had where the first meeting they started talking about our game.
Isn't that crazy? Breaking news.
Yeah.
You built on Avalanche because they talked about your games and not just the pump. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of it was about like, what's great about this chain. It just wasn't really, I don't know. I mean, being the creative director, I might be one of the most about the game people on my team. I don't want to undercut anyone else with that comment, but it just it felt more personal, and it felt like the priorities were definitely centered around what we felt our priorities were at the time, and that was like, we really want to take care of our baby. Our baby is important. We want to have sort of mutual incentive here to benefit it. And the conversation with the Beam folks, and then Avalanche's background in general. So obviously we were looking at Polygon at the time as well, and Immutable has always been a shiny object to us. But like consistently, so chains that are not Avalanche, I'm not going to name any names, have not
Okay.
been as consistent in their vision and in the definition of what it is that they are developing and what they are building and standing for, as Avalanche has been. And we feel as though uh, Avalanche not only has the exceptional technology, but has stayed the course for a while. And we felt as though we weren't going to be, not to use the term out of place, but getting the rug slipped out,
Grifted.
only
We're all
not a,
grifters here.
yeah, not a full rug pull, just a 90 degree, just when the ship takes a hard right and everyone else is trying to go left. So yeah, we felt as though their vision would stay cohesive with ours, and we knew the technology was there, which we were really excited about, especially with all sorts of potential expansion. If you're a game that wants your own chain, if you don't want to do things with databases, if you want everything to be Web3, AveX offers that. It just, yeah. Combine that with a chat that we felt sated our, insecure hearts when it comes to supporting our game and loving something that we have put so much love into. It became a pretty clear choice for us.
Yeah, and something I've got to say here is, I've talked with the Megaweapon team for a long time. We played over at 3XP organized event. That was dope. I've been playing a lot of Megaweapon. I barely knew anything about the token apparently until like a week or two ago, which I had to do some research because a lot of people were telling me about it. It was like doing something, but the main reason I played the game was the pacing. Dead Drop has kind of lost its vision on the Web3 component of its economy. Megaweapon's like, okay, we've got the wager component. We're happy with that. We've got skins. There you go. And I'm like, okay, that's great. If the game's fun, then obviously it takes off. The most sensible utility in crypto gaming, to me at least, is NFT skins, because that's just something that's very easy to integrate and something that has frustrated me a lot as someone that has a lot of skins on CS, which I've sold now. So I guess I'm paper hands there too. But yeah, dude, like, it's been a journey. It's been a journey for sure. I'm happy to see y'all have a lot of success. And talking about success, let me put Marco on the screen now in 4K here. I noticed Merit Circle did a little bit of an announcement. I don't know if you're excited about this announcement, but it said breaking news. I love saying breaking news. I'm a YouTuber. It's kind of what we do. Merit Circle, Immutable, and Polygon are joining forces in a united front. This sounds very deep here. To take the gaming industry by storm. Is this revolutionary? Are we getting to this point yet? No? Maybe. Together we're stronger. Together we're charting a bold new path for the future of gaming. Are you cheating on Avalanche? What is going on?
Absolutely not cheating on Avalanche. No,
maybe it's not how it seems.
No, and it absolutely is not too. Here's
just
the
in
thing.
DMs, yes. It's nothing.
Not at all either. I mean, like I said, I love working with the Avalanche folks, and we are absolutely excited to keep focusing on the subnet. I mean, the Beam subnet is here to stay. We are going to have more games on there. We are going to continue to build out this amazing ecosystem. I think something that we kept saying from the beginning is, if I were to explain Beam in a nutshell, it's basically a toolkit for developers and gamers. And this toolkit, so to speak, is chain agnostic in essence. Like we can deploy different tools on different chains. And the really nice reference that I like to use for this is we want to be where the gamers are. We want to be where the games are. And so in this case, I mean, we have to give Polygon and Immutable some credit for everything that they've done in the space so far and how many games we're building on there. They got great market share. And for us, it's like, it totally makes sense for us to start with the Sphere NFT marketplace to deploy that on the Immutable ZK EVM, because in a way, that's something that, Immutable has been missing. I think it's a great addition in general because Polygon likes to be, the tech under the hood. Immutable likes to go one layer above that, but they're not necessarily keen on building out everything on their ecosystem like a marketplace. And that's where we come in, because we already built a lot of this stuff for gamers, for game developers, in honestly a really nice jacket that takes it back to, again, what I mentioned earlier, the gaming experience. Does that mean that we are, shifting gears on the Avalanche side? Not at all, because there too, we've had amazing traction so far, amazing feedback, and it's going really well. I mean, in fact, we just announced another game to be building on the game, Rogue Nation, and we're going to get more of those announcements with more games building on the Beam ecosystem. So yeah, I'll stop there for now. But if you have any other questions about the Polygon Immutable partnership, or if it's around the AFAX side, go ahead. But I'll say that, it's a chain agnostic adventure, and we want to be where the games are and where the gamers are.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like it makes sense. There's a lot of games on every gaming ecosystem at this point. They're all under development. They said some crazy figure on Immutable, something like 400 different games are being built on. There's something absurd. Like, I don't know how many of them are actually going to get built out. It is what it is, but it's a lot of games that are building out there. You'd be missing out if you're a platform as a service and you're not building out on all these different gaming ecosystems. And leading into this, to me, it seems like people are very excited about Avalanche and all these different crypto gaming chains. Is there a future? Are there plans to maybe forget about the Avalanche and maybe just focus on the video games and the products? Is there going to be a world in the next year, hopefully, where I can log into a game and it doesn't prompt me for a MetaMask or all these different things? And maybe it is Web3. Maybe it is on-chain only. Is that a thing, or are we just dreaming?
I mean, I'll take you back to Beam for that. That's all I say.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I mean, the first thing that, you ludicrous Gibbs said too is we were looking at something that has, in essence, already existed for a while. So there's a track record there. You know what they're standing for. You want it to be fast. You want it to be cheap. And in fact, the majority of the game studios think like that. I mean, there's this fun fact that I heard on one of the Bankless episodes where they said, 50% or over 50% of the game studios that are close to shipping a game haven't necessarily picked a chain yet. And why? Yeah. It's because there are different chains that are all cheap, fast, and, they work. But it comes down to the details. What might be a benefit for your game studio and for your game? I think one thing I'm very proud of is that the majority of the people if not everyone here working at Merit Circle, are gamers by nature. I mean, at heart. I mean, we love gaming. I love gaming. I mean, I've played Megaweapon quite a bit, and I'll continue to do so. And I think that's, the energy that we like to give back to the studio. It's like, hey, we're not here just to be your tech partner. No, we want to help you build out this ecosystem, help out this community on the marketing side, on the gaming activity side, etc. And so when you get back to that, doesn't matter which chain you're building on. I would say it comes down more to what support are you getting and what tooling is available. And I think in the Beam case, I mean, to take it back to what you just said, am I going to be able to enjoy blockchain elements in the game without having to learn about private keys and MetaMask? I mean, absolutely. I think one of the things that we are launching is the Beam Companion app. And it's basically a mobile app where you can manage your NFTs. You can send them, you can use them in the games, across games if you want to, but it uses social logins, and it's basically through account attraction. So the really cool thing there is you can just log in with your email address, password, or username, password. You don't have seed phrases. You just have like social recovery backups through different emails that you might, provide from your friends if you want to. There's all those options that take those benefits from blockchain and Web3 gaming back into the game experience that gamers understand. And I think for me too, if I'm laying here on my couch, I'm playing a game, I never ask myself, oh, what voice system might they be using under the hood? Yeah. And I cannot imagine that gamers are going to ask themselves, hey, what blockchain is this game actually using? No, they just want to see it work. They want it to be efficient. They want it to be fun. And that's something that we are working towards, I would say.
Absolutely no one cares in the regular gaming space. It's ridiculous that people think that chains really matter. Well, they matter to some extent when throughput and everything, but like to the average gamer, they will not pay attention to these things. I've talked to so many gamers over the past my entire life, and none of them care about the ins and outs on what's being built out. They just care if game is fun and I pour in 3,000 hours, will I have fun?
Right.
Gibbs, thoughts?
Jesus, yeah, totally. I wanted to be able to build on that. Which it covers a couple of good points that I didn't quite have the wherewithal to go over when I was talking about why Beam. But the whole Beam is gamers, and you want to know you want to be where the gamers are, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot more to that, I feel like, than just that phrase, because like gamers, traditional gamers, which are the only thing that has been gamers up until this point, don't expect like a high friction or difficult startup process when you want to play. Like I open Steam, I click play, I'm playing a game, you know? I'm not like, okay, open up Steam, let's get this 2FA, okay, scan a QR code, make sure that we've got the right wallet connected, et cetera, et cetera. And it was very clear that that was a, intended to be a streamlined part of the process. Like, it was very clear that we were talking to people who were trying to make this as accessible as possible for traditional gamers, rather than trying to sweep in as many of the Web3 gamers, as possible. And I think that that's a, really important aspect to what chains are building out right now. Also, one additional aspect that I had forgotten about until now is for anyone out there who is still picking their chain and who is trying to decide between them, when you are going on interviews or when you are talking to different chains, bring your tech person for sure, because it becomes relatively easy. Please bring your tech person, of course, obviously. Becomes relatively easy through some sort of pointed questions to determine who actually has the things that they say are built, and who doesn't, and how long you might be waiting on some of those things versus others. Because let's say you're ready to go to market, and as it turns out, the thing that you were depending on to go to market is pushed out like 4 or 5 months. Like, that is a bad situation, because game studios are not cheap to run. And sometimes that might be a make or break. So yeah, very, very important, I think, to, because we're in such a nascent space that the road is being laid as we are driving on it, like, this stuff is being developed and implemented in a way that games will need it, will depend on it, and yet at the same time, it's still coming together. Like, yeah. So I
Yeah,
think those aspects are
that
very
must
important.
freak you out. It must freak you out that a lot of these chains are still freaking out and figuring out what they're doing, firing people left and right, making new products, incubating these other things, and then tweeting out about them. Makes sense why you decided to build there, because at least they're focused on one thing, and they're like, if it doesn't work, it is what it is, guys. We tried. But personally, gaming has God knows how many transactions. If you're trying to get transactions on a chain, then definitely crypto gaming is there. And talking about crypto gaming, I've played many different crypto games. I struggle with this one thing. It's sad.
Mhm.
I struggle to have fun on many of these different crypto games.
Mm-hmm.
In this video, I wanted to talk about what makes a crypto game fun. Because personally, Megaweapon's fun, but a lot of these crypto games make me sad. So we'll start with you, Gibbs. What makes a game fun?
Boy, I mean, that's not a universal thing, right?
Well, it's
Whenever
bias. We're looking for bias here.
what makes a game fun? Let's see. You got to have the word mega in the title somewhere.
Or
No,
breaking
I'm
news,
kidding.
yeah.
Yeah.
Insane, yeah.
So what makes a game fun? When I'm asked questions that are similar to this, I always think back on this book called Flow that I read maybe like a decade ago or so, and it's got this little like grid graph on it, where on one side of it is the challenge level that a certain activity provides for you, and on the other one is the amount of skill level that you have. So that grid gets broken up into boredom, where you have more skill than by a good margin than what would be required for that. And then there's anxiety, where you have much less skill than would be needed for the skill required for that. And in the other two zones is flow, where you are either being slightly pushed outside of your ability zone, or it is slightly below, but being slightly pushed outside of it is the best. I think that's an important aspect for a game, to always have that that aspect that you can sort of like push yourself in. But for everything else, as far as what makes a game fun, I think it varies from player to player. For me, it's immersion. I think that having, an energy and a pacing that is matched in the game between your soundtrack, your sound effects, a variety of other things. But I sort of return to this phrase that we came up with early, almost like a tenet to develop around. And that was that we really felt like we needed to make a game, needed in our hearts, that was fun even if you're losing. You lose a match, and you're like, oh man, that's great. Let's get back in it. Like yeah. So I would say there are a lot of things that make games fun, and it definitely varies from player to player. But I think that conceptually and just sort of on the surface, that's where I would start to
What
define a
makes
fun
it
game.
fun for you?
What makes it fun for me? For me, I like fast-paced games. I like colorful games. I like games that tie music or soundtracks into the action. I'm a very like audio-driven person when it comes to that. Um, I don't necessarily like online titles because I'm so obsessed with immersion. I love story-driven, either single-player titles, or I freaking love buddy co-op. There's this game called Synthetic, and it's like this relatively unassuming seeming like three-quarters view or top-down style buddy co-op. It's like it's got rogue elements to it, and is basically like a shooter. Uh, the game has been given a lot of love, and it's got a lot of overlaid simple systems, which I think makes it
I got you.
Synthetic. Oh man, I love that game so much. It's freaking addicting. Because it's okay. That's another thing that really makes a game fun for me. Is it's difficult. I want a game to be difficult. I really
Not too
do.
difficult though.
No, not too difficult, right? I don't want it to be frustrating, but there's all sorts of different aspects to difficulty, right? There's difficulty that you can understand and you can actually train and adapt for, and then there's difficulty when you're like, what's going on? Why did I die? Uh, so this one is difficult in like a you got me kind of way, and it really just sort of ramps you up to want to get back in and yeah, prove your skills. But games like this are a lot of fun to me. I love buddy co-op because you get to enjoy, going through trenches with your buddy. I'm not a big console gamer, personally. I've always been, yeah, great. I mean, we're going to need to be bringing over a lot of, great, you're my kin. We're going to need to be bringing over a lot of console gamers,
Unfortunately.
eventually, somehow, or integrating that into Web3 if you want it to really flourish and really be like the new definition of gaming. But at the same time, I almost feel bad for console gamers because they just miss out on so much innovation and so many fun games in the indie space. But yeah, I'd say immersion is really important to me. I would say that fast action generally is what makes a game fun. Fun versus compelling. I play a lot of compelling titles that are a little slower. But yeah, that for me, yeah, crunch,
Crunch. Yeah, it's
game
got a
that
nice
has
crunch.
satisfying crunch.
Yeah, it's got
I
that
like
Doritos
that.
feel. Yeah, got
Yeah.
it. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Thanks.
What do you think about that, Marco?
I mean,
You like
I
the
like
crunch?
this question. I like this question. I'll put it that way because it's a very personal opinion, and I think this perfectly shows it. Because I was gonna say, I can barely think of any single player game that I actually really enjoyed. I think you have like Far Cry, Assassin's Creed. There's a few examples that I'm like, okay, this really got me hooked, and I would keep playing, and I really loved it. But there's only a few titles I could name because I really like online games, and I think I like them skill based. And if there's some kind of luck factor in there, that's completely fine. If the luck factor is too high, I just get mad because I'm like, dude,
Bloom makes me
there's
mad at Fortnite.
there's nothing I can do about this. It's not my fault, and yet I lose, right? I cannot do that. I'm not too good at those games. And I think at this point I've played, over 100 games in Web3, if not 200. I don't even know at this point. We've just been testing so many different games throughout the past 2.5 years that one of the things that kept coming back to me is that the learning curve is pretty steep. I feel like with a lot of games that I would normally start up from like Steam, there's a pretty easy and fast tutorial that gets me into the game and the keyboard, settings and whatnot. I'm like, okay, now I know how this game works. Whereas in Web3, very often I just dive right into it. I'm like, okay, there's no tutorial. something happens. I'm not sure what happened or how it works. I don't experience that too much as a gamer usually, especially having played so many different games. But to me, what makes a fun game is if it's challenging, it keeps me hooked. It gives me the feeling that I'm improving. So I like the ranking systems, for example.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm a gamer that if it's a game that you can keep on playing and I get hooked, I kind of go down the rabbit hole there. So there's a few games that I kind of blacklisted where I'm like, okay, no, I got to focus on Merit Circle. I'm not going to play this game now because I'll just keep on playing for the entire day. And a really good example is when JackX launched a new server of old school RuneScape, where everyone started off fresh again. Everyone started at level 3 with all skills level 1, entire new economy. Then I'm like, wow, this is my moment to shine because I know the economy inside out. I love trading in that economy and then just using those profits to like get up my skills and whatnot. I was like playing that for 2 weeks straight, and I was like, okay, no, I'm gonna just stop it because it will actually distract me from what I actually need to do. And games like that, I get you somewhat hooked. I used to love it, but nowadays I like to go back to like mobile and casual games because I'm behind my PC on this same chair almost throughout the entire day, every day. So by the time it's the evening, I'm still a gamer. I like to play games, but I don't want to be sitting behind the same PC desk again. So I like to play mobile games on my phone, just on the couch. But, if there's a game like Megaweapon and I get to play that with, we've done it a couple of times in our Discord server with like 10, 20 people tuning in. We're all going in the lobbies and we're all having voice chat. That, those kind of games absolutely excite me as well, because then it becomes personal and it becomes like challenging. And if you kill each other, you hear the other person, kind of be like, I lost. Whereas I'm like, yeah, I got you. I'll stop there.
Exactly. That's what it is. You got that,
I think
that competitive nature, man. Go for it.
I think the because there was sort of like an era of increasing toxicity in a lot of just like I would say gateless multiplayer games, where there's even like a line about League. I forget exactly what it is, but it's like I'm not familiar enough with their matchmaking system, but it's kind of just like single player matchmaking, like you get what you deserve in League.
You just get
Everything got
D4, yeah.
yeah, right. Everything got sort of like really. So I say like toxic, but that's like, I don't know, like that's how gaming has always been.
That's
I'm not
gaming,
right, it is, but
Very
but
toxic.
like you get conditioned to it, right? You steep in the toxicity of it. But what a lot of that did for me, around the time that I was gaming a lot, was it like ruined that immersion factor that I really like. So I do love games like you're talking about, like Megaweapon, where like the well, I mean, we made
I hope
but,
so.
what I'm saying is that like I haven't completely signed off on all like multiplayer titles. They're a lot of fun, but I think I prefer like the co-op ones a bit more. Like Deep Rock Galactic, I love that. That's a great game. Helldivers is a blast. We definitely took some inspiration from that title. Love Helldivers. You'll see a lot of synthetic and Helldivers in our game. But as Marco started talking about his experience with gaming, I was like, well, hold on. I didn't really sell the whole story. I was like, wait, no, that sounds fun to me too.
Yeah, what the story sounds to me is that you're afraid of multiplayer games because you're afraid of getting beat by content creators like me on Megaweapon. That's what it sounds like. So you like to go onto your little games, single player games that are difficult, but of course doesn't have that learning difficulty of actually understanding human psychology and beating other people. So
that's probably
clearly that's what it is.
Obviously. Yeah, I know. See, because all I'm looking to do is play a game. Like, I don't want to contend with the insecurity that you're stacking up against me right now.
Totally.
Like, that's a whole new like big bad. Yeah, sure. That's probably it. You know, I'm just not good enough at those
Nah,
games.
it's not it. It's literally like I'm actually in a similar band camp. I was a hardcore League of Legends maxi for the longest time. I know about Heroes of Newerth, huge competitor for League of Legends back in the day, and this is why I'm really bullish on crypto gaming, because Heroes of Newerth, by all means of accounts, was a significantly better title. Had the backing of Dota, which, you know, League came from Dota. So why did League win? Well, League was a free-to-play game. First of its kind, was very popular back in Southeast Asia, but American companies, they didn't want to do the whole free-to-play model. So they didn't do it. Heroes of Newerth was $30. A lot of Southeast Asians really liked League of Legends. So League of Legends got a ton of players, but then Heroes of Newerth ended up making their game free. League of Legends, did they freak out? No. They introduced the ranked system, which was a first of its kind for the time. So I do think that for multiplayer games, 100%, if you want a proper game loop, it has to be competitive. It has to be fast-paced, enticing. There's a reason League of Legends games are shorter historically, the higher rank you go. Bronze games, they last like 30, 40 minutes because nobody knows how to close them out. Challenger games, you're out there in 15, 20 minutes. So I get it, 100%. Nowadays, I'm more of a casual gamer. We don't have time for this stuff anymore. And to be honest, looking at a computer screen hurts my eyes. So I agree with you 100%.
You know what's really...
Yeah.
I wanted to just dive into that League of Legends part one more time. What's really funny is if you look at YouTube videos of League of Legends from like 2012, 2013, and you look at when they cast an ability, it takes like 30, 40 seconds for ability to reload before you can use it again. Then now, if you cast an ability, it takes like 6 or 7 seconds, which goes back to that fast-paced, mindset that people have, and that short attention span that people have nowadays. Maybe it's because they have less time, or maybe it's just because the attention span is actually shorter with things like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, stuff like that. So to me, it's just fascinating. When someone pointed this out, and I opened YouTube, I looked at the videos, I'm like, damn, that's actually true. It's very interesting.
I think that games that push your response time like that and push your reaction time, those are really satisfying. I think so. I mean, games where like you are having to perform this many more tasks a second, like they feel frenetic. You feel like full of tasks or full of like attention grabbing things to do. So yeah, I think that move was a good one. We made similar moves with Megaweapon. Like we've increased player speed multiple times, increased stamina so that players could run or dash or roll more. In fact, our musician, our music producer, who I've been working really closely with from the beginning, he had some stuff written at the beginning, and we got our pacing down, and he and I had a conversation where he's like, hey, are you pretty close to like final pacing on this one? And I was just like, yeah, it feels so good. It feels locked in. And, he's like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to increase the BPM of the music that I've written to match the new pacing of the game. I was like, man, thank you. You are a true professional. Like, I'm like, that was just outside of my sphere of sort of recognition. But again, it's important that immersion is there for the really fast-paced stuff. But Marco, I had no idea about that. I haven't been a classic League player, but our lead Unity dev has been a big League player. But I guess I'm not really surprised that games are sort of trending towards maybe a little faster paced, maybe a little shorter attention span. I also think that tailors them a little bit more to younger gamers, just a little bit. And I think that's where a good market really exists, particularly in the professional gaming sphere, So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're all TikTok brain these days. My audience, a bunch of 35-year-old men interested in crypto gaming tokens. Some of them play the crypto games, but we have this saying in crypto gaming, it's like we've got 3 of us here. Maybe one of them is me in crypto gaming, and then the rest of them are just degens and traditional gamers that might at some point end up playing these games. Talking about the 3 crypto gamers that exist right now, what a lot of games right now are struggling getting people playing these games. Some are because the game isn't out yet, and Megaweapon's still very early on. It looks pretty finished, though. I'm gonna say that the game looks like it's almost done. Maybe I'm wrong with that one. But yeah, a lot of people are having trouble with their go-to-market strategy right now. Maybe they're going on to Epic Games, Steam. They have a Web 2 component. They made a Web 3 one. They're doing airdrops. They're doing whitelists. They're doing NFT lands. They're throwing their tokenomics in 30 different places and burning tokens. My brain is fried half the time. Unfortunately, you know, it is what it is, but I'm still in the space. I'm alive. What do you see as the ultimate go-to market strategy that, as someone that's been building the space forever, it feels like 2 years is at least 2 decades, has finally kind of figured it out? Because a lot of these crypto games are really struggling with this little part. I talk to some of these crypto games. They're like, okay, we get 14 cents a download. Some of them are like, yeah, we spend $100 per download. I'm like, what is wrong with you? So what do you feel
more dollars than cents?
It's a lot of dollars. So what do you feel is like the ultimate go-to market strategy that these crypto games got to do? Do they need to double down on the NFT stuff and then monetize off of ads? Do they do microtransactions? It's complicated, but what are you personally doing that you weren't doing 2 years ago when you first got in?
What are we doing?
Yeah, for your go-to market.
Boy, okay. I mean, you're talking to the. I'm just gonna say you're talking to the wrong person on the team as far as the marketing aspect of things. I have to poke my head out of a hole just to get on like interviews like this. What's that?
Do we yell at Peter?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Let's yell at Peter. I give that guy way too much guff. It's hilarious. If you watched any of the Twitch streams we do, he has, he is the resident rodent or rat that we refer to regularly. Anyways,
that's what he told me. That makes sense.
So I think that it's important to cut some people a little bit of slack here, at least in a capacity, because two of the things that you just mentioned are incredibly relevant and also very difficult aspects of this space. The first one is that there are enough people out there, unfortunately, that have set the precedent of, you play this game, we give you things, we give you money, we like, you play this because we are making unsustainable and not legal comments about some security aspects of what we're offering. You know what I mean? Like we are breaking the rules as far as like making monetary offerings in order to like get
bribing
people over
you to play the game. Yeah,
right, which almost feels like the Axie issue, you know, where people are just like, oh, it's just going up, and nobody thought to think like, oh, this is a house of cards. Like, we're inside a condemned building that's just moments from potential collapse, you know? Like, how do you continue minting and sustain that? Like, no, once you run out of new players, it's out. So I think one of the difficulties is the precedent that a lot of projects, unfortunately, are unscrupulously pursuing, and that is the sort of like promise of, you know, wealth or whatever else in order to sort of attract the Web3 exclusive folks, because like you said, the number of speculators versus number of players or gamers that's a large ratio. It's definitely speculators first in this space. The number of people that talk to us about the game all the time that we have never seen play the game and who have admitted to not play the game, you know, it's like remarkable. But at the same time, I want to like, you know, cut a little bit of slack, because it is a very nascent space, and there is not a lot of like proven, tried and true go-to-market strategy for Web3 games yet. What we've seen are some popular titles that have managed to make it to the forefront, you know, but what they have in common, or so it seems to me so far, with very few exceptions, is a huge budget. And a whole ton of VC funding and a whole bunch of money where they can drop 7 figures on marketing, you know, and like smaller studios, particularly like mine, we don't have that luxury. You know, it feels like a new space that, you know, of course, like we all want to flourish from the things that make Web3 and blockchain great. You know, decentralization, the ability to be your own ... But you know, I expect and hope that, you know, we will continue to get organizations out there that are really interested in cultivating quality games, that will do their digging and determine which teams are building quality games. And hopefully, direct support to those, so that we don't get another situation where AAA studios are just basically going to be dominating the map. And we're going to miss out on all the innovation that indie studios or smaller studios have traditionally brought to gaming. And to miss out on that in a space that is very innovation forward, I feel like would really be undercutting the magic and the potential that this space has as sort of a, pioneering dimension.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these studios, when they first came out, they had like no funding. They came out. I remember Star Atlas's vision, which was much smaller than it is now. They got much more money. Illuvium, same thing. Many of these different crypto games started off as indie gaming studios. Let's be honest. They probably didn't even have a gaming studio building on there in the first place. But times have changed, and there's a heck of a lot more money on there. And it makes sense. You throw a lot of money at the wall. Eventually, some of it will land, and you will make some money. But the longevity of Play to Earn, it's questionable. And talking about longevity of Play to Earn as a model, we've had stuff like Elizabeth Warren talk about crypto with her new bill, but there was something else that's very spicy. Gods Unchained, one of the legacy crypto games in the space, rated adults only. Now this isn't OnlyFans. This is adults only for Play to Earn elements. That's why they ended up kicking it out. They booted it from the Epic Games store. What do we think about this? Are we scared of all these different little Play to Earn games getting kicked out as well? Is there going to be a new era of people saying play to, like, wager, and then they get around it? They're wagering the opportunity to earn crypto coins. What do we think about Gods Unchained? Because I like this game. I really do like this game, and I like the studio, but that's a tough one to read. Adult only. Who wants to take that one?
Who wants to take it? Yeah. I mean, I can start, but honestly, I'm very curious about your opinion too, Lucas. I mean, to me, when I read this, I was like, oh no, I don't hope this becomes like a slippery slope, because honestly, it is a threat for other games that are listed on Epic Games Store that have blockchain elements. But I also think it comes down to, in what way are you positioning yourself and communicating that you're, blockchain elements are a part of your game? Like, is it actually that play to earn narrative where you're promising people that they are going to be rewarded for the gameplay, or is it actually, the NFTs in the form of like skins doing things in the game that way? Complete opposites in my mind. I think one of the things that I saw in that article, though, that did stand out to me is, I mean, they are actively, communicating with the entertainment software rating board, which is a good thing, because I think it comes partially down to education. I think, really going in that conversation with an open mind and explaining how this model works in your game might give them new insights in, okay, this is actually how it worked. But it might also come to a middle ground where you're like, okay, we now kind of know the limits, which were still kind of blurry in terms of Epic Games Store, to what extent, crypto blockchain can be allowed in the game store, so to speak. So I think this conversation, I hope that a lot of the information and discussions in that are going to be public, because for other game studios, it's a learning lesson. They get to understand, okay, so this is what it actually means and how it goes. So yeah, I mean, honestly, no opinion other than that. It's just wait and see and figure out how this is going to go.
Fair enough. Gibbs.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the only option we're really presented with is, there's been a lot of wait and see, in a variety of capacities here. Like I was saying before, like, we're driving down the road as it's being built in front of us. Epic was kind of the the golden child between the two, at least between Steam and Epic, right? Even though with a substantially smaller user base, Epic still was making a lot of allowances and sort of like, clearing certain ways for Web3 games or blockchain oriented games to find their home there, on Epic. Steam is also terrifying to a degree, particularly as a smaller game developer or a game developer in the Web3 space, because of how averse to blockchain and Web3 traditional gamers still are. They hear the term blockchain associated with games at all, and it's just like, So if you launch a game on Steam and it's not well supported by a community in some capacity, you could get vote bombed and that game will never recover, you know? So Epic felt safe, and that's unfortunate. Steam also has all sorts of really weird NFT restrictions if you want to launch a game there, that really makes it to where it's really nuanced, really complex stuff. If I had the document in front of me, I'd share it with you guys, but Steam really wants all transactional volume to go through Steam so they can take their 30% cut on things. 30%, man. It's insane. It's crazy. I think Epic's like 12%. Like, actually, you know, approaching like pretty fair. I'm not going to say approaching fair. I would feel comfortable with that. So yeah, what are we going to do? I mean, it's a bummer, right? Like, it's something that we're upset about because we were planning on launching on Epic, but at the same time, it makes sense. It's like, I mean, especially in the U.S. I hope I'm not, you know, speaking too broadly here for other geographic regions, but you know, in the U.S. you can't get a job, you can't earn money before the age of 18 without, you know, like parental involvement or inclusion, right? You could get a, you know, like a permit to work when you're 16, but you still need your parents to sign off on it. So there's a parallel there, you know. It's like, yeah, you can't earn money with your output, you know, legally, at least under like, you know, certain guidelines and jurisdictions under the age of 18. So it's like, you know, there's like a sort of existing precedent there, but then at the same time, this is just so. At the same time, there are a variety of ways where you can, you know, using like underground communities or marketplaces or things like that, sell aspects or I see your face, Jesus. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Hold on a second. I'm just going to flash a QR code on the screen real quick. That where you can, you know, engage in asset economies still in some games, you know, without like Steam, Big Daddy Steam getting their cut. But how I feel about this is like, no movie studios. I feel like the onus should be put on the client. I feel like the onus should be put on the player. No, I don't mean to say movie studios. No movie theaters are really like IDing people that go into our movies. You know, I don't know, maybe NC-17 movies, do those even get released anymore? Like, I don't think so. I feel like it should be an opt-in thing so that the onus is not on the platform to be the gatekeeper, you know, like Epic, but rather like, yes, I am, you know, because how many, like, when you visit any website that is adult only, you just have to
really
say,
matter.
You just have to say, yeah, I'm 18. Yes, I'm 18, you know? And if there's ever, yeah, totally, I'm 18.
I was born in the 90s, guys.
And if there's ever like a reason why you having clicked through that becomes relevant, then that information could be made available to the, you know, parties that might need access to that information. I'm not going to speculate as to why, but
makes sense.
It seems weird to me for a platform that seemed to have been trying to make as much space as possible for these types of games specifically to all of a sudden take such a hard turn away from it. And it makes me feel as though there might be something under the surface that we're not aware of. Epic
Little
might be
flip-floppers.
What?
Little flip-floppers. They're getting paid.
Yeah, but why flip-flop? Why flip-flop now? Why flip-flop when the market is starting to get healthy again? Why flip-flop when Epic has already sort of defined itself as a bit of a Web3 friend? This seems to me to be a perfect time to launch an Epic integrated Web3 component, you know? Maybe that's what they're doing. Who knows? I can't really speculate as to why they've taken a hard turn at this point, especially after allowing the game initially to launch. Like,
Goes back to wait and see and find out.
Wait and see.
I think
Find
so.
out.
I think so. But I mean, come on, Marco. Like, what's an interview in a conversation without a whole lot of speculation, right?
Hey,
That's why we're
Especially
here.
in the Web3 front. So yeah, I guess wait and see. But I do like hearing other people's speculation as to why this might have happened or how we think it's going to resolve. Like, yeah, how much of a demand is there for that in the first place? Like, like how many people were playing through Epic? Like, is there enough of a demand for like a competitor to arise?
Yeah.
Follow-up
Some would say that there are databases out there that hold NFTs, we just call them FTs at that point, just fungible tokens. A little bit of an excuse where you can get around these very specific restrictions. There are a lot of loopholes in this world, and maybe some of these crypto gaming companies are doing them, and maybe they're not the most ethical for these publishing companies, and so they're getting a little bit of that anger because they're not getting their slice. That happened with a lot of different crypto games back in 2022. So that may or may not be the reason for why that is happening in the first place. Age ratings don't matter unless you're getting published somewhere. Then it kind of matters in a way. So, I mean, average person doesn't care, but we know how it is in this space. Let's talk about scary things. Megaweapon's Tokenomics, Gibbs. I know you're not the guy for this.
These are scary things. That's great.
So people, they've got two opinions on tokens. Either it's the best thing in the world or it's the worst thing in the world. You launch the thing, you spend millions of dollars trying to keep it up. It is what it is. Or it gives you a ton of funding. It creates a sustainable economy. We're all having a lot of fun. I didn't know about your tokenomics until like 2 weeks ago. So clearly it's not the focal point of Megaweapon. How do you find Megaweapon's tokenomics to actually supplement the game experience versus give it a hurdle? Because to me, I've covered games before, and I love Gala. I've got this thing for Gala, apparently. But I recently went ahead and did a bit of a thread on my thoughts playing Eternal Paradox. It's a 4X grand strategy game. In my opinion, looks better than Lords Mobile, the flagship 4X game in the mobile industry. But it's got a bit of a hurdle because it resets 40 to 50 days. Doesn't feel like it has those core loops because I feel like they're scared of letting down NFT owners or the people that have already spent a lot of money within their Web3 gaming economy. So I feel like there are some economies out there that using Web3 is actually probably a bad thing, right? In the way that they're actually phrasing it. So how's Megaweapon doing it? And do you feel like the tokenomics for Megaweapon are cool? Because game can be cool, but the tokenomics also have to be cool for it to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. So there might be some good reasons as to why you only found out about tokenomics a couple of weeks ago. What we saw as really the most important, and this is one of the like the benefits that we had being such a small team, is that we feel like we had the benefit to sort of develop things that we know first and allow things that we didn't necessarily know or couldn't necessarily fit within the sphere of optimization for later. You build your infrastructure out and then you decide where the water is going to run, where the trains are going to go, where the popular areas of the city are, et cetera, et cetera. I know it's an analogy and maybe a loose one, but what we really wanted to make sure we had first was a fun game. A game that people would want to play, and we've had myriad, ideas about exactly how the tokenomics would be fully integrated and laid into the game. But there are still a lot of ways that we have not really announced that we would like to see the token laid into the game. But what this is all dependent on are things like, hours of legal discussions and having the technology to do these things. Like we're working directly with Ludex right now in order to get our risk play in place. And what they do is basically handle the whole smart contract and resolution side of things, which is really, really appealing to us. Gives the potential for people to take rakes from risk play. So, typical for like a risk play match, if you're playing poker or I don't know, horse betting or whatever is like, 15 to 20% rake or so on your match. Now, we have floated ideas of people that are holding, certain amounts of the weapon utility token to be able to take rakes from matches versus that going to some, I don't know, dead account, burn account, something like that. The weapon token is going to be used to provide discount for people to purchase the in-game token. It's going to be the primary token used in risk play matches. But we have an in-game token as well. Ammo is the name of that. That is going to be primarily a database token, but it is going to be balanced with the same, sort of economic rules that the primary token is with, sinks and a non-inflationary, primary mechanics behind it. But the nice thing is that as you get to the point where you have a lot of the sort of essentials and known knowns in place, or unknown knowns, then it becomes much more obvious, much more apparent where the sort of organic stuff like, your tokenomics and how a token interacts with the game can fall in, based on like what is really driving people to play the game, what is people's favorite aspect of the game, where do they want to see that additional level of risk come in. And we see tokenomics as definitely being something that can highlight and bring interest and sort of incentivization into aspects of your game. But at the same time, you're totally right. Like, it's a potentially double-edged sword, right? You've got like a token out there. You have, and that is that's a lot to manage. But I think that in general, what the sort of development side of my team is really, I don't know if I want to say infatuated with, but one of the things that gives us the most joy in this space and building in this space is having to be an engineer almost every day. Like, you have to solve these problems that didn't really exist before. You got to innovate and come up with ways to sort of like solve, like tie two loose pieces of string together. And we flourish in that sort of environment. And just because some maybe full definition or announcement about the token, has not been completely laid out, does not necessarily mean that there is, any shortage of like implementation of that. But rather that, you want to layer it in a way that is really going to benefit the game, that does not feel like you're just painting a fresh coat of something or sweeping stuff under the rug, or just sort of like, yeah, the token fits over here, this is fine, it'll do this fine, and it's not going to upset any regulators or anything like that. Like, there you go, like, throwing a bone to the dogs. It's got to work in a way that is synergistic with the game, that really brings a lot of utility to the token, that really drives people to want to use it and have it move through the ecosystem. So yeah, obviously there are some defined aspects of how it's going to play into things already, but also a lot of things that we are excited about potentially seeing. I like the idea really of the rake share or the revenue share, so that potentially influencers, I don't know if you know any, but I could, organize tournaments, right? Organize big games and have them all going through your personal servers. Let's say you're running like, 100 matches over the course of a week or something, and the rake's all going to you because you're the one who's organizing these. You're the one who's bringing people together in order to play that. We see that as sort of like positive feedback loop incentivized, like mutual incentivized marketing. And people are playing the game, which we think is really the hook. Like, we just want people to play the game. We think the game is good. We want people to play it and get hooked to the game. So, there's no shortage of creative ideas, but it's really about what the final puzzle piece is going to look as far as that blockchain integration. And I do think it says a lot about what my team's priorities are, in that we built the game first. We didn't announce our tokenomics first. We wanted to make sure the game could support something as potentially complex and technical as tokenomics of, an ERC token. I guess it's still an ERC20. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Avalanche's EVM. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Before we get to Marco, I mean, for me, in terms of all these different crypto games coming out, game first makes a lot of sense. It's important to understand that the second that you actually end up launching your game with your economy, that's your time. That's your time to be a crypto game. That's like, whenever people talk about, the first 10 days of a Steam launch are the most important. For a crypto game, it's not actually launching the game. It's launching the tokenomics and launching the actual economy within the game. So once you do that, you're live. So to make sure that things are fixed, take your time with it, just do your thing, make sure it's all beautiful, get that influencer rakeback stuff in there, and And next thing with Marco, we'll do the last question here. We got to go real fast. Here it is. Tokenomics and crypto games. I'll kind of turn it off over to you. There are a lot of crypto games that have launched over the past month at this point. It feels like 30 different tokens launched. Probably not, but tons of tokens are launching. And all these tokens have like the worst unlock schedules I've ever seen in my entire life. In the regular crypto space, you never see this stuff. Where like 3 to 5% of the supply is initially out there for circulating. And then they've got like, I don't know, like 10% of the supply is going over the VCs and the private sales, which has like a 6-month cliff, and then they sell it out over the next 1 to 2 years with a 10% TG. Half the people here are already fried with their brains. But the point is, definitely, the point is like, the tokenomics aren't the greatest for traditional, crypto enthusiasts if they're looking into this versus maybe some of the other sectors in crypto where everything's kind of laid out there. You don't have to worry about all these different unlocks. Why is crypto gaming tokenomics so damn complicated right now? And are you worried about these crypto gaming tokens that have 3% circulating and then in a year they're going to have like 18% and we're freaking out about it? Is that something Merit Circle's worried about?
Where do I start with this? I mean,
sounds crazy.
Let me start by putting in a disclaimer here too. We have a really good BD team. We have investment analysts. They know the drill. They have seen so many different tokenomics, and honestly, as have I. I think when I see games that have 3%, 4% circulating supply from the start, maybe like 70% community incentive buckets, I'm like, okay, let me look into what this whole game economy is actually like. Because if this is going to be a matter of, hey, within the next 2 or 3 months, through all sorts of game activities, we're just going to reward a lot of tokens, then as a holder, I would be like, I'd be cautious. I'd be like, okay, so this is just going to be given away to the players. What's actually the token economy here? How is the token is going to be used in the game? I mean, if it's a matter of, hey, the main utility here is incentives, then I'm like, okay, well, nice, but then how is it going to be used in the game? I think if it's a matter of where you have a game where for every dollar worth of a token that goes back, to the community, if $2 come in revenue or in, entry fees for tournaments or whatever, that is a completely different picture. So I'll start by saying it depends on the game, it depends on the economy. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of awful tokenomics out there. I think one of the things that we pay really close attention to when we've invested as the DAO is, okay, what does this incentive structure look like? B, what does it indeed look like for like the VCs that come in early on? I mean, I'm personally not a fan of projects that do like a 6-month vesting period because it's way too short. At the same time, you also don't, you also have communities that say, hey, those guys shouldn't receive anything for 4 years. Then I'm also like, well, but then you're just going to postpone the inevitable of them still getting their tokens. So you need to find balance there and do the distribution throughout a long time period in, small incentive unlocks every month, for example, where there's also clear incentive for those VCs to hold the token. I think what a lot of people do forget is it takes a long time to build a game. Some of the games that we invested in that are now launching a token and people are like, but those VCs are now up 10 times. We invested in 2021, And a lot of people forget that aspect too, because without those VCs, there wouldn't have been a game, because operating a game studio is expensive. Building a game is expensive, much more expensive than it is to build projects in different, in other sectors. But to get back to the tokenomics part, I think here too, for me, is just a really interesting case study now that we're seeing a lot of different games go live with a lot of different tokenomics. Which one is going to work, which one is not going to work, because honestly there's no blueprint. But I do think, and I do want to point out for people that are interested in buying tokens or doing research to the tokens, first of all, do your own research, not financial advice. Second of all, dive into those game economies and unlock schedules, because they do matter, pretty much.
Yeah, they matter a lot. A lot of the time, those VCs are getting their money back. That's for sure. So, I'm very excited for the crypto industry. I think we've all got that billion-dollar insight. Hopefully, that'll get us through to that 2024 cycle. Hopefully, we can have this again sometime. Let's go ahead. Shout out the guest over here, Merit Circle. We've got Marco, which is 420.eth. That's a bit of a grail, isn't it? We've got Gibbs out here, creative director for Megaweapon. He's got the insights here in terms of actually making a fun game. Incredible, incredible stuff. Thank y'all for joining the show. That's gonna be everything. Ladies and gentlemen, stay classy. And that's all.
Thank you.